What happens when a royal guest walks into a live TV studio thinking they can control the story? You're about to find out. Today, we're revisiting one of the most jaw-dropping moments in daytime television history, when Prince Harry appeared on Loose Women and got far more than he bargained for. Prince Harry arrived expecting a polite, carefully managed conversation. Instead, he faced Denise Welch, bold, unfiltered, and absolutely unwilling to play by royal rules. From the moment the cameras rolled, you could feel the tension. Harry, visibly uneasy, adjusted his tie as Denise locked eyes with him, ready to test just how much honesty the prince could handle. Prince Harry joins us today to talk about his latest ventures. Denise began coolly. Harry, thanks for being here. Thank you for having me. He replied with that practiced royal smile. But Denise wasn't in the mood for charm. She leaned in. Is it though? Because from what I've seen, you've had a lot to say about the British media lately. Care to elaborate? Harry hesitated, the smile faltering. Well, I think it's important to have honest conversations about media responsibility. Honest conversations? Denise repeated sharply. Right. So, when you say the British press has been unfair to you, does that include shows like this one? Because we're British media too, aren't we? Christine Lampard quickly tried to smooth things over, but Harry had already taken the bait. There's a difference between responsible journalism and the kind of tabloid sensationalism that's haunted my family for years, he said firmly. Tabloid sensationalism? That's quite a claim. Denise shot back. Are you saying any coverage that doesn't flatter you is sensationalism? That's not what I said, Harry replied, his voice tight. But there's a pattern of negative coverage that goes beyond fair criticism. Denise nodded slowly, like a prosecutor closing in. And who decides what's fair criticism? You. The air in the studio grew heavy. Harry's carefully polished calm was cracking. Anyone with common sense can see the difference, he said weakly. Denise's eyes flashed. So your common sense decides what's fair, but ours should always agree with you? Convenient. Kay Adams tried to rescue the moment. Let's shift gears. Maybe you could tell us about your charity work. But the damage was done. Harry's composure was gone. I came here expecting a professional interview, not an ambush, he snapped. Denise raised her eyebrows. An ambush? Harry, this is a talk show. We ask questions. That's kind of the point. The audience was silent. No one dared move. What started as a simple interview had turned into a televised showdown. A royal unmasking no one would forget. That's literally what we do here, Harry. Denise shot back. Did no one explain the format to you? The condescension in her voice was unmistakable. Harry's face flushed red. I understand the format perfectly well. Thank you. What I don't understand is this hostile line of questioning. Christine Lampard jumped in quickly, her tone soothing. I don't think anyone's being hostile, Harry. Denise is just doing what she always does, asking what viewers want to know. But Harry wasn't having it. His voice hardened, the polished diplomacy giving way to royal irritation. These aren't questions. They're accusations dressed up as journalism. Denise let out a short, humorless laugh. Accusations? I've asked you 3 questions, all about your own statements. If that feels like an attack, maybe the issue isn't with the questions. The other panelists now sat silently, heads turning between them like spectators at Wimbledon. The audience was hooked, the tension electric. Harry's tone shifted, that clipped, imperious cadence of someone used to being obeyed. I think viewers can see exactly what's happening here. This is the kind of media behavior I've been talking about. Oh, is it? Denise folded her arms. So when you go on global TV and accuse your family and your country of wrongdoing, that's just you, telling your truth. But when we ask you to explain those claims, we're the problem? That's completely different," Harry snapped, his composure slipping fast. "Different how?" Denise pressed. "Because this time you're not controlling the narrative? Because you're not the one asking the questions?" Nadia tried to break the tension. "Maybe we should move on to some of your charity work, Harry." But it was too late. The prince's patience had vanished. "I shouldn't have to defend my truth to people who've already made up their minds." The phrase hung in the air like smoke. Denise pounced. "Your truth? That's an interesting phrase. What about the truth? You know, the one based on actual facts." Harry's voice rose. "The facts are that my family has been subjected to years of invasive and malicious coverage." "Invasive coverage?" Denise shot back. "Of public figures doing public duties funded by public money? How shocking. The press reporting on public events. Who could imagine?" Christine's face tightened. "Maybe we should take a moment." But this conversation was a runaway train, and the brakes were gone. Harry's voice dropped to a cold, formal register. "I came here in good faith for a civilized discussion." "And that's what you're having," Denise replied smoothly. "I'm asking direct questions about things you've said publicly. If that feels uncivilized, maybe the problem isn't my tone." "The issue," Harry said tightly, "is that you're not listening to what I'm saying. You're just looking for gotcha moments." Denise's smile was razor-sharp. "I'm listening perfectly, Harry. You're saying that when you speak, it should be accepted without question. But when anyone else speaks about you, that's unfair. Do I have that right?" "That's not what I'm saying," he protested, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction. "Then what are you saying?" Denise demanded. "Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you want to criticize everyone else, but get offended when someone dares to question you." Kay Adams tried one last time. "I think there might be some misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," Harry interrupted sharply. "This is a perfect example of the hostile media environment I've been talking about. And there it was, the viral moment that would be replayed endlessly online. A prince accusing a talk show of hostility for asking follow-up questions." Denise blinked in disbelief. "Hostile environment? Harry, you're sitting in a comfy chair on a morning chat show being asked about your own public statements. If this feels hostile, what on earth do you call actual hardship?" "I call this exactly the kind of media manipulation that drives people away from public service." Harry shot back, his tone icy. "Media manipulation?" Denise repeated, her voice rising. "I've asked you to clarify your own words. That's manipulation now." The studio air was thick with tension. Even the panelists looked uneasy. What had started as a morning chat had turned into a televised standoff, a clash between royal entitlement and journalistic defiance. Christine was fidgeting with her notes. Nadia stared fixedly at the desk, while Kay kept glancing toward the production booth, silently begging for someone to cut to commercial. But no one was coming to the rescue. Harry had crossed a line, and Denise Welch wasn't about to let him retreat behind royal protocol. "You know what, Harry?" Denise said finally, her tone calm but cutting. "I think our viewers are smart enough to see exactly what's going on here. You came on this show expecting soft questions and deferential treatment because of who you are." "That's absolutely not true," Harry snapped. But even he seemed to hear how hollow it sounded. "Isn't it?" Denise pressed. "Because the second someone treats you like any other guest, asks the same questions we'd ask any public figure, you start crying, ambush, and hostile environment." Harry's composure broke. His voice rose, his face reddened, and the mask of calm civility slipped away entirely. "I don't have to sit here and be lectured by someone who clearly has an agenda." The studio fell silent. Even the cameras seemed to freeze. Denise's eyebrows arched sharply, and when she spoke, her voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. An agenda? What agenda would that be, Harry? But Harry couldn't stop himself. His jaw was tight, his voice full of brittle outrage. The agenda of making me look bad to boost your ratings. The words landed like a bomb. The audience gasped softly. Denise stared at him for a long, icy moment before replying, each word deliberate and razor-edged. Making you look bad? I haven't done anything but ask questions. You're the one choosing how to answer them. If that makes you look bad, Harry, maybe the problem isn't the questions. The silence that followed was deafening. You could almost hear the collective breath being held across the studio. Then Denise repeated his accusation slowly, her voice soft but lethal. Boost my ratings? Anyone who knew Denise Welch knew that the quieter she got, the more dangerous it was. So let me get this straight, she continued. You think I've ambushed you, created a hostile environment, and now I'm running some kind of personal vendetta against you. All for ratings. Harry hesitated, realizing perhaps that he'd gone too far. But pride wouldn't let him back down. I think it's clear what's happening here, he said stiffly. This isn't journalism. It's entertainment at my expense. That was it. The moment Denise's patience finally snapped, her voice sliced through the air like a blade. Entertainment at your expense? You came here voluntarily, Harry. Nobody forced you. Nobody made you say the things you've said publicly. And nobody is making you sit here acting like a spoiled child because someone dared to ask a follow-up question. The other panelists looked like they wanted to sink into their chairs and disappear. Christine was openly staring toward the control booth now, silently pleading for someone, anyone, to step in. But the producers knew gold when they saw it. They were letting it roll. Harry's face turned a deep crimson. Spoiled child? How dare you speak to me like that? And there it was, the outburst that shattered whatever was left of his composed image. The royal mask didn't just slip, it broke completely, revealing the raw entitlement beneath. Denise's smile was icy and deliberate. How dare I? You've accused me of bias, of having an agenda, of manipulating you for ratings. And now, you're telling me how I'm allowed to speak to you on my show? Tell me, Harry, who exactly do you think you are? I know exactly who I am. Harry shot back, his voice rising, loud, furious, and utterly unfit for daytime TV. And I don't have to tolerate this kind of treatment from anyone. The audience was transfixed. No one moved. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was a public unmasking. Nadia tried one last time to pull the train back onto the tracks. Perhaps we should take a moment to calm down, she ventured gently. But Harry was beyond calming down. Calm down? I am calm, he barked. What I am is disgusted. Disgusted by this ambush of an interview disguised as journalism. Denise leaned forward, her expression deadly calm. Right, that's enough. Her tone left no room for argument. You've called this an ambush. You've accused me of having an agenda. You've said I'm manipulating you for ratings. And now, you're lecturing me about journalism, while throwing a tantrum because someone asked you to explain your own words. I am not throwing a tantrum, Harry protested, though his voice cracked just enough to betray him. Aren't you? Denise shot back instantly. Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone who expected to. To be continued? Come on this show and be treated like royalty, literally, Denise said coolly. And now you're having a meltdown because I treated you like any other guest. Harry shot up from his chair, the legs scraping harshly against the studio floor. I don't have to listen to this, he snapped. It was a clear power move, a calculated attempt to reclaim control. But instead of commanding respect, the gesture only confirmed exactly what Denise had accused him of being. A man throwing a royal tantrum on live television. Denise didn't even blink. No, you don't. There's the door, Harry. You're absolutely free to leave whenever you want. The calmness of her response caught him off guard. He'd expected apologies, panic, maybe even a producer rushing in to smooth things over. Instead, he was being invited to go. "This is exactly the kind of media treatment that destroys people," he said finally, his voice wobbling with anger and uncertainty. "What destroys people?" Denise replied evenly. "Is believing your title makes you immune to the same questions everyone else faces." Christine tried one last time to save the wreckage. "Harry, please, why don't you sit back down? We can start fresh." But Harry was too far gone. Pride wounded, temper flaring. Start fresh? After I've been insulted and ambushed on live television? Kay Adams, who had stayed quiet through most of the exchange, finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. "Harry, I think you might be overreacting a little." Overreacting? Harry's voice jumped an octave. "I've just been subjected to a character assassination on live TV, and you think I'm overreacting?" That was it. Denise had reached her limit, her patience, strained but steady up until that moment, snapped. "Right," she said sharply, her words cutting through the tension like glass. "I think it's time for you to leave, Harry. This interview is over." The words landed with the finality of a judge's gavel. Harry stared at her, stunned. "You're throwing me off the show?" His voice was smaller now, uncertain, a world away from the authority he'd tried to project moments earlier. "I'm ending an interview," Denise corrected calmly. "That stopped being productive the moment you decided answering questions was beneath you." He looked around the studio, expecting someone, anyone, to step in, to defend him, to remind Denise that he was Prince Harry. But no one did. The other panelists avoided eye contact. The producers stayed silent. The cameras kept rolling. "This will be all over the papers tomorrow," he said finally, his tone turning cold. One last attempt at intimidation. Denise's smile returned, sharp and precise. "Oh, I'm sure it will. And when people watch it back, they'll see exactly what happened here. You were asked fair questions, and you chose to have a meltdown instead of answering them. And with that, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, turned and walked off the Loose Women set, leaving behind stunned hosts, a silent studio, and one of the most unforgettable live TV moments in recent history. So, there you have it. The complete breakdown of how a royal guest managed to get himself kicked off. Loose Women in spectacular fashion. What do you think? Was Denise too harsh or just doing her job? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more celebrity moments that prove some people just can't handle the heat.